Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm very excited. We were just talking about how I haven't done one of these in a few months, so this is really cool. I'm very excited to be back with Portland Cocktail Week, distance learning, sponsored by Campari Academy. Today we are actually going to talk about Campari a little bit, which is great because obviously one of my favorite brands, and hopefully one of everyone's favorites. We're super excited for this next few months. Obviously, we have Negroni Week coming up in September, the third week in September, and then we are sponsoring the New York Film Festival, and that will be the last week in September. Which will be really, really cool. We have a really fun collaboration coming out with it's called Fellini. So it's a Fellini film that is actually a partial artificial intelligence meets filmmaking. So it'll be really, really cool. And so speaking of art and speaking of Campari's connection to art, obviously advertisement and art in many, many different mediums. I'm really excited today for this session between cocktails and poetry, joined by Manny Hernandez. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give a quick rundown of what Campari's connection is with art and what it has been. And then I'm going to hand it over to Manny to just talk about the class a little bit and what we're going to be discussing today. And we'll have a really, really fun chat. So Campari, the original red Italian bitter, has been around since 1860, really, really long time. We moved into a space in 1867 in Milan, next to the Duomo. It's called the Vittorio Emanuele Secondi Galleria. That space was a really, really pivotal moment for Campari and for our connection to art, because in the early 1900s, we started on a path, on a journey in our connection to art, mostly in our advertisements. I have one behind me here. It's a Leonardo Cappiello from the early 1900s. And this was the first time that we ever really started to develop this concept of how we can talk about our products through art and through advertisement. And then throughout the years, that kind of blossomed. One of the really, really cool things that happened with one of the futurist artists, Fortunato Di Paro, was that in 1932, we created the first RTD ever in cocktails. And it was a Campari soda, very, very simple cocktail. But the bottle itself was really, really important. It is a kind of a triangular glass bottle that is virtually unchanged since 1932. We still make it. Unfortunately, it's not in America for various reasons, but it is the oldest and longest running RTD, and in a really, really fine example of how we can work together in our minds to create things, not just cocktails, which of course we're going to talk about today. And then moving forward, we changed that medium as it became available. We started working in commercials and then in film. And as I mentioned, we're the sole sponsor of the New York Film Festival. So a lot of really cool things happening there, and a lot of interesting history there. And so what we're going to talk about today, between cocktails and poetry, I think is a really, really amazing example of how bartenders today especially are so creative in many, many ways. It's not just making cocktails. And a bartender isn't just someone that makes cocktails. A bartender is someone that converses with people. They're a people connector. They make you feel good when you're sad. They make you, they help you to rejoice when you're happy. So there's a lot of really cool things. And Manny, I think, is the perfect example of someone who can deliver that for us today, especially. And then also something really cool that Portland Cocktail Week and especially Manny are doing. Also on Thursday, he'll be doing another session in Spanish. So another continued effort to increase inclusivity and to help better our industry by allowing that information to be available to everyone. So Manny, thank you for today. And thank you very much for Thursday as well. We're really excited to have this class today. I know I am. So please, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little introduction to yourself and to the class.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you, Campari, Daniel, Amy, and all the production for giving me this opportunity. It is amazing. I can share a little bit my knowledge, my passion, what I love besides making cocktails. Is the connection that the experience that we give to the guest. My name is Hernandez. My name is Manny Hernandez. I'm here in Watsonville, California. I work at Dry Creek in San Jose, California. So pretty much a little bit of my background. I've been on the industry, on the just front of the house since almost 10 years ago. my previous experience, always be working behind the bar, in the kitchen, dishwashing and everything. And one day, the managers or the owners from the restaurant told me, like, hey, the bartender didn't show up. You want to jump in? I was like, well, sure. I didn't twice the opportunity, even I was a little afraid, but I made a really good job. And since that day on, so like, I'm keep moving forward, I've been working in different type of restaurants, and and it's been amazing. It's been a really amazing journey. I mean, learning a lot from great mentors, Jorge, Marcela, it's and bunch of other great people on the community.
Awesome. Well, Manny, let's get into the class today. What is it that you really want to share with everybody? What kind of the purpose of the class and in the genesis, where you came up with the idea and how you want to talk about it?
So when they nominated the classes between cocktails and poetry, and that's one I think I was discussing with couple guests, like how you connect poetry with cocktails. And as I see, it's like a very simple way, because every cocktail or every ingredient has a history, has be part of the history. One big example, Campari, is a little more bitter sweetness, that can bring the bitter sweetness from a memory that we have, or from the poem that we can learn or we listen, or even can be from the song, or can be from the movie. And every spirit the same, that will be a different background, like we can go to tequila, mezcal. That's like mostly for me is like my background, but it's like, try to show part of the history behind that, the little histories that we learn on from our grandparents, and we can share to others. The modifiers, aperitifs that can be, or liqueurs, can be different ingredients on each one ingredient, especially if you are making from 5 cocktail ingredients, go with that. And like I say, sorry. And yeah, and like I said, it's like just every single ingredient make a huge impact on the cocktail. You can use rose water that remind you the first date, the first time that someone give roses to another person that is very special for them. And this is how I connect the cocktails with the poetry.
I love it, and it's funny you say that. I've had a couple of experiences with bartenders who are very, very connected with what you smell, what you taste, how you put those things together, and how you create cocktails for someone. Not just creating a cocktail that is a classic drink that is very very memorable or widely publicized, but a cocktail that is really truly meant for someone. And it's funny how you say that when you say like rose water. Like if you ask someone where they're from, or what what type of flowers grow near where they live, and you can incorporate that into a drink, and like actually create something in a physical form that creates that memory. That's a really cool concept, and I love that. That's what you think of when you think of making drinks for people, because it's not always just, does it taste good? Of course you're going to want to make a balanced drink, right? But yeah, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and actually that's the connection that we have with the guests. Always like, we can have the menu, we have the classics, but also it's like, hey, what do you like to drink? How you feeling? Most people like, you like something sweet, you like something sour, bitter, or you want something strong. It's like that little thing counts a lot, especially because we want to make sure the guest feels special, because they come to our house, and we want to make sure we provide the best service for them. And one other things, is like, talking about it, it's like, just one trip, can be one trip. You take the train, and you enjoy the trip, but in that train you find, or you meet a really nice, beautiful person, and you having a really nice conversation, and you don't want to go smoke out there, just like do something else. But in that moment, the little bar car is passing, and they have that cocktail that like give you the smokiness from the cigar, and then you can keep staying and enjoying the conversation with that beautiful person. That's, it's like from a smoky can be a smoky from a scala, a smoky from a scotch. Get that, and that balance. Can be like some flower liqueur that give you the sense from that person, and one syrup that can be make the sweetness from the moment. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. There's also that thing where like the strongest sense tied to memory is smell, and so when you smell things, it like immediately gives you a reminder of a moment or a time. And it's an instantaneous thing that you don't, it's involuntary, it just happens. Like you get a weird image in your mind. You're like, wow, that's really crazy. That reminded me of something. Um, that's a good example of it. So let's talk about poetry a little bit. What is it about poetry that has you excited, or how did you get into it?
Uh, Actually, that was funny because when I was 7 years old, I used to write a lot of little birds and poems, and I used to sell it to my people from my guys from my room or from my classmate, so they can I was charging like 1 pesos, like 50 cents, like, hey, here you go, you want a little poem for you for the chick that you like. Here you go. Yeah, that's how I used to make a little more money. I used to have a little extra money, and can buy stuff, and like, oh, after school you guys buy some candies and toys. That's how I was making money, and that's how I get in the poetry. But
Uh,
when they grew up, and you get more concentrated, and like, oh, I really like this, and I really enjoy it because this is one way you can express yourself, and also how is one way how you can make yourself or give yourself more freedom
yeah.
after all this stress that you have. And if you don't find a better way to put the stress out, it's poetry, writing down. So that little thing is, makes yourself more free, and happiness.
Would you say that this is something that you do often? Are you kind of like a journalist? Do you sit there and kind of write down daily, or is it just whenever it strikes you?
Is whenever it strikes me too. I mean, I used to do it really often, but with work and everything, I just like, I just usually now sometimes I put in my phone, writing something, or just even I have a napkin, write it down, destroy it. Now in that moment, I feel so much better after I write everything. It's like, here you go. Oh, just a little bit if I can burn it. So it's like, okay, it is gone. All those feels, all those feels sentimental. But yeah, no, like poetry is since probably remember since I was kid. I get that, where I that was one of my research to make money. And kids, we used to go to knock the door at my house and like, hey, where you at? Can you make some point for me? And like, sure, like, give me 5 pesos. It's like $1. Here you go. There you
Um,
go.
I love that. That makes sense. I mean, some people sell their homework, some people sell poetry. I love it either way. It's the hustle. I love it. All right, so let's talk about some authors, some poetry. Do you have a favorite author, or do you have like a favorite poem or something like that?
I grew up with a huge Latin American influence. I mean, Mario Benedetti, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Pablo Neruda. I mean, Octavio Paz. It's like, even that one of the biggest ones is from Don Quixote. I forgot his name now. And it's just mostly the classic one. I just grew up with all the classics one from the 1950s, 60s. I mean, I learned a little bit about Shakespeare. That was really good. I mean, not my favorite one, but like I say, it is. I grew up with a little bit of him, and I have a more huge influence on Latin American speakers or poets. Plus, go with a little more darkness. I go Edgar Allan Poe. So that was one of my favorites. Tales of Tales, don't the Hard Tales. So that's pretty much my favorite poem. And then and also Kafka. Kafka and Lev Trotsky. I mean, even the Lev Trotsky has a different. Lev Trotsky is the father of communism, but also some books he has that was good one, and which was Sigmund Freud too.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I
because
mean,
even that. Mhm.
no, go ahead.
No, even that Sigmund Freud is like really no, yeah, because even that they show you different the dreams can mean something, and from that from that meeting that from the dream you can recreate a cocktail because why you dream can be rough, oh can be whiskey because whiskey is mostly if you someone is drinking whiskey at 10 a.m. it's like it's rough morning.
Yeah. I feel like last year a few people may have experienced that a couple times.
Yeah.
We won't get into that. So a question that came up, what are some of your biggest inspirations for cocktails?
My biggest inspiration for cocktails. You know, even can be sometimes can be my family, my friends. Just that moment, one little moment that I have in life, just can be that little inspiration. Inspiration come from everywhere. I'm not saying that it's I have that moment. No, inspiration can be from everywhere, from every time. For example, yesterday I have a really lovely time with my mom, and I can recreate that moment. Like she has one tea. It's like a more herbal. She doesn't drink too much. She usually prefers rum or vodka, so I can go with that, and make a really nice simple syrup with she loves honey too. So make a honey syrup with a really nice cordial with this kind of similar to limoncello. I forget, but it's just that how you see the moment, how you appreciate it. Even that can be with a moment with your friend, how you see the perspective. It can be a sweet moment. Hey, you can make a really nice sweet cocktail. It's rough. You can make a really kind of bitter cocktail, or even that. Last year my grandpa passed away, and I recreate a cocktail. Based on what I learned from him, or even from my grandma too. It's like I create this cocktail with there's the history behind this, like chocolate coffee bitters that remind me every time that I was on her little town, remind me wake up at 5 in the morning, would make she made already fresh coffee, then one corn liqueur, then we go to the little molino where we can ground the corn to make tortillas, and then we come back. It's the lime, because every time that she make tortillas, she put a little lime and salt on my tortillas, and I was eat it. And then grasshoppers, because every time like, hey, grandma, I want a grasshoppers. Like, hey, she give me a plastic bag, and I go into the backyard and just go with your feet on the grass and capture the grasshoppers. Like that was a live Pokemon for me. It's like doing that. And pineapple, that was the most that was her favorite fruit, and every time that she was eating pineapple, she enjoys as a kid. I see, when you see a kid enjoying something that he really loves, it's like, damn, that's a beautiful moment. And mezcal, because it's for my heritage, that's how I create that cocktail. So it's like, it's just how you see the experience and how you see the momentum of inspiration. I don't know if I was clear.
Yeah, no, that's very. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, especially because every time you make the cocktail, then you remember them, and that brings back memories. That's amazing. And then when you drink it as well, and so all those, I'm sure all those aromas and flavors and things kind of add up for an experience that's memorable and very heartfelt, which is great. There's another question that came through, which I think is kind of very appropriate for this time, especially when you're talking about making these drinks for people. It says, what are some small touches you'd like to add to your guest interactions to make them truly special and memorable?
It's probably I'll go with sometimes I really like to go with this, and the cocktail go with every single detail. The every single detail counts a lot. Make sure that can be a really nice garnish, or can be a really nice a little perfume on the cocktail. It's always asking that question, like, oh, what you like to drink, how you like it, how you want to enjoy it, because even that they give you clues but not all the clues at the same time. It's like they give you
Mhm.
part of the puzzles, and our mission is complete the puzzle and give that that perfect cocktail for them. That's something like I told you this, but they never expect we're gonna bring in something together and the perfect balance. And they in that when we give the cocktail to them, with they and the first sip, they're gonna blow their mind like, "Wow, this is something I told you, but something that I didn't expect."
Yeah. Well, I think that's the best part about it, is that there has to be some form of hidden surprise. I mean, if someone were to just say, like, make me this drink, sure, that's fine, but you get to add these little experiences and these little twists to it to make it even more memorable, which is great. So all of my questions are are essentially about poetry. I find it really fascinating, having conversations with you about about authors and about the way that people write and what they write is, I think, one of the most fascinating parts about this, because bartenders are very creative people. I mean, that's kind of the entire point. We'd like to make things with our hands. We like to have interactions with people, and words are very important. The way that you speak to people, the way that you interact with them, the words that are written down when telling stories about things. And this is something that I think we talked about a little bit, was if we're talking about products, if we're talking about cocktails, if we're talking about those things, they have a heritage, they have a history, and often they have a really interesting story of how they came to be. I shared with you that I really enjoy Charles H. Baker cocktail books like Jigger Beaker Glass, because there's a story that goes along with it. And back then, the words were really, really important. Like how you phrase things, how you emphasize cocktails. Are there any inspirational cocktail books or cocktails or cocktail ingredients that you have a story about, or you find really, really fascinating when talking about them?
I mean, when if we're talking about the cocktail books, I can remember the name of the book, but is where that book when they ask every bartender which will be your last drink.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
What's your best drink? Most people use margarita. Most people say Manhattan. Personally, I will say Negroni. If someone asks me, hey, which one will you be the most, your last drink you want to drink? What will be the last? I will say Negroni. Besides Negroni, one is my favorite cocktail. I love it. Um, and one of the reasons that because it's part of the journey. You can be with gin or we can be with mezcal. I mean, mezcal will use from heritage, mezcal Negroni. But even that, the Campari give you the kind of bitterness and sweetness moments that we have in through my years on the industry. All the sweet, the bad, and the bitter, and the amazing moments I have on the industry. And the sweeter mood that will bring me more of the passion, the love that I have for making cocktails, the passion to, and even the romanticism for share what I'm learning. Sure, like, hey, this is the cocktail that maybe you say you're not gonna like it, but promise you're gonna love it because has this from come say from mezcal negro. It has a kind of smokiness. It's kind of that fire from a heritage, and then the Campari is the bitter and sweet they have been having all those years in the industry. But when you drink Campari, at the end it has a really nice sweet uh, finish. And the sweeter mood, like I said, is romanticism. Is like more sweet moments. It's like when you round everything. At the end is like really, really love. Is really, really passionate about it. Um, I would say it's probably that. So how I do describe it, the cocktail. Is like trust me. I'm not telling you because I want to tell you I want to sell these cocktails because I want to show you how I'm really passionate about this. Even
Mhm.
that with different with gin, oh, probably maybe we remind you a rough time, but has a little more floral notes from this gin. and the Campari and this vermouth. So it's just how I can, how I would tell the history, from every ingredient.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We talk about it all the time at Campari, and we talk about the history of the drink and all of that. And there's things that I think come up as we continue to have those conversations, because especially for bartenders, like, we have specific things that we say when we talk about things, especially amongst each other, which are terms that we're very comfortable with. But when you are speaking to a customer who doesn't have very much experience in these things, when you say something is bitter to someone, for example, they're immediately kind of like, I don't know if that's something that I'm into. But the way that you just described the cocktail and each of the ingredients is a much more eloquent way of describing each product. And as you're developing that storyline for the customer, their mind is working too. They're hearing what you're saying, and they're digesting it, and they're like, this sounds like a really, really great drink. And you, along that path, are also reinforcing to them that this could be something that they really enjoy, whether or not it's a flavor they're familiar with. But having that conversation with them kind of adds to that, which is really cool.
Yes, and also one thing, like, when we create a cocktails, you don't have to go with that with the really crazy ingredients. You
Cool.
know, always something I'm learning. Like, when you want to create cocktails, is like, try to make simple and easy. And even one simple ingredient means more than one crazy ingredient. I just was a couple of weeks ago, I was presenting one of my new cocktails to one of my guests. Like, oh, this is one cocktail is gonna be on my new menu, and the name is the Dorian Gray. And they were like, what? Like, they said, we love Dorian Gray, we love the movie, we love the book, and this is how we, that couple met together. Like, really?
Mm.
Sure. And explain, tell me why. Tell me what you have used. I use a limoncello. I use limoncello, uh, early grey tea syrup, gin, and absinthe. Those four ingredients. Like, how you connect that? Well, like gin in that 1800s, especially in the book and the movie, I see like they the person the main character went to the gentleman's club. They were drinking gin.
Mm.
Absinthe, that was part of that and kind of era too. And tea, that was, they used to have tea parties and that on tea parties on that kind of 1800s, on that part of the book is and that's how I connect that. I just connect those four ingredients, and when they're drinking, that's a really nice sour earth herbaceous cocktail. Yeah, that's what I want. I would like, especially if you're reading the book and you enjoy these cocktails, like, wow, they transport you to the book. Like, you close your mind or you close your eyes and you see that kind of scenes of the book.
Yeah, I love it. Another question. So when you train newer bartenders, how do you get them to channel inspiration into their cocktail creations?
Uh, so first of all, it's just like when new bartenders on the new generation that I'm getting right now, I show them first of all the classics, the fundamentals. What is classic is not just like, hey, I'm bartender, I want to just pour in drinks and ready to go. It's like, no, it's like, let's go with the classics. Let's go with, like, let me teach you what is margarita. What the history from Martini, the history from Negroni. Told them the history, what is behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I told them, like, if you want to modify, you want to create a cocktail, just use the classics as example. I have one my new bartender, her name is Caroline, and she really enjoyed the last word. It's like, oh, last week she tried for the first time last word. I made her for her, and she really loved it. Like, oh, why can I change? No, well, what do you like to drink? I like mezcal. Change it for mezcal. And she changed it. I try it, and really, that's really awesome. Like, yes, change just a little bit ingredients. Yeah, you think you're gonna might like it, and from that part is be part of your inspiration. I want a sour cocktail. Okay, use the last word. Use the aviation cocktail as your base, and from that you can make your own inspiration and your own creation cocktail.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't really understand the classics and the fundamentals of the balance of things, you can't really create moving forward. I mean, you can. It's going to take you a while to to figure that out.
Yes, no, and actually, I was being patient with them, like, hey, just take your time. It's not rushing. We are on this together. I'm here to you, to teaching you to support them. Because that's the thing. I trust them more than 100%, because
Hmm.
they're my team and they're my second family. I spend more time with them than I spend more time with my family. So they're my second family. It's like, hey, you know what? I would support you if you want to compete. I will help you to compete. If you want to create your own cocktail, sure, I will give you my notes. I'll give you this. I share all the knowledge that I've been getting from my mentors and friends and the seminars I've been having. I will show you to you, because the most important is I want them being successful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, mentorship is probably one of the things that, if you see how quickly the category of cocktail bartender or just bartender in general has evolved and grown. I don't think that there has been a matching of mentorship along the way. I don't think are as many mentors as there are people interested in becoming bartenders. So it's really nice to hear you say that, because I've definitely come across bartenders, over time, over the past maybe like 10 years, that their number one thing is, I don't really have anyone to teach me. I don't have anyone to ask questions, because maybe they're in a city that doesn't have a lot of mentorship, or maybe the community itself isn't really focused on it. But anybody who is listening to this or watching this, and anybody who's interested in cocktails, really, as they develop and they learn, I'm sure much like yourself, it's important to give back and to teach it as well. And that's, again, this is what these sessions are all about, which is amazing. All right, so Manny, let's talk about when you're, obviously we talked about inspiration for cocktails. We talked about some of your favorite cocktails, but when it comes to poetry and to bartenders and to inspiration, how often do you think you're having conversations with bartenders about poetry and that connection? Or have you talked to a lot of people who are interested in maybe expressing their thoughts and their words in poetry?
Actually, and that I've been having, I have the opportunity to talk to at least two, three people about doing like do a little fun thing with cocktails and poetry. One of the person is Carmen. She's a bartender. She's a bar owner in Oaxaca, Mexico.
Hmm.
I mean, talking to her like, hey, let's do something. Let's exchange cocktails. Like I give you one, you give me one, and we can tell the history, what is behind this cocktail. I think I talked to one of my other friend, Linda Garcia, who is a bar manager in New York. So we talk about it too. So like, we talk about, that bring that concept more, and show that what we are capable, because I mean, I talk to bartenders, talking to bartenders, when I talk to like cocktails and poetry, like, nah, doesn't fit. Probably have, they might not have the same perspective, but it's like, has a lot of potential, and
Yeah.
has, it's like, when, especially if one person want to create, open a bar, that can be a really nice concept. You can use from any kind book or any kind poem, even the Greek mythology, the same too. It's like, that was how you can create it. That's how you can create amazing cocktails, and people can be back again to the culture. I came back like, oh, I never heard about this, but I wanna discover more about this character. Orfeo and Eurydice. That's one of the most lovely history. Like, because Orfeo just got to the hell, just tried to rescue Eurydice. So like, that was the true love. It's like, if some people ask me, like, between Eurydice or an Orfeo and Romeo and Juliet, I go with the Eurydice and Orfeo. because he went to the hell to rescue her. So it's like that's, and like I said, from that you can make a really nice cocktail. One can be floral, another one can be more bitter and sweet. So, but yeah, no, it's like I think this concept has more and more, and like I said, we can explore it more, and we can, talking with them is like it will be a really nice. It will be can be a really nice menu. Sorry, in every place you say want to do it. Let's try it, and let's bring something a different experience to my guest.
Yeah. I love this as a cocktail menu concept, but also it's kind of like a book club of sorts, like you each come with your own ideas and your own concepts and you talk about your experience with these things, or maybe it's, you propose a story for people that are interested, and you all have a group and you each make a cocktail based on the story, and then you bring the cocktails back to the group, and it's like an interesting way of sharing your perspective on that book through the creation of cocktails, which is also a medium that obviously bartenders understand very well. So what I mean, you can sign me up is what I'm telling you. I would like
No, and actually actually you read my mind, because that can be a really nice uh, uh book club, a club book. So like now, like, hey, have a really nice 10 bartenders or bartenders, so anyone who's like who wants to join it, like, hey, we can do this, read this book, read your favorite book, and then in 2 months you can come up with one ingredient or one cocktail, and you can describe it, what means, and when we give sip it, how it's going to transform and how it's going to change, or how it's going to transport to the book.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's there's a lot of ways that you can make that fit for the industry, for people. But one of my questions, for you was obviously how do you suggest people get started reading poetry? And for people that maybe are not necessarily motivated to read, or they're unfamiliar with it, this is a really fun way to get people excited about reading really, really famous books that connect people of many different backgrounds, like you were saying earlier, especially with Don Quixote or anything of that nature. You bring that book to the group, and it connects them not just in the book, but also in the way that they see cocktails being made, and I think that's a really exciting thing that you could put together.
Yes, and well, one of the things, like, if when people wants to just read, they're new on reading poetry, or they want to start reading poetry, I would say just get with the small small books, get the really small poems. Then you will understanding, you see what are they talking about, because you can, I can suggest you a really nice book that has a 200 pages, and like, maybe it's like it's too big, like I'm not want to read it. Like, no, just start with one with 10, 15, 60, 75 pages. Just start slowly, and you don't have to read it every single day, but at least 3 days during the week you can read the book, like, oh, I really like it, and from that you will be creating that habit. Oh, I finished this book, and you get you get that excitement when you're like, oh, finally I finished this book, I want to get another one. So that's part of the process. It's like how I suggest everyone start slowly, and you create the habit, and when you create, after 2 weeks you're creating the habit, boom, it's gonna be more easy, and you're gonna feel in love with that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it would even be the same for people that are interested in writing poetry. Start small. And there's so many different ways and different formats too. We did an exercise where we were making haikus about different products, and we talked about the Negroni. I was like, okay, let's make a haiku about the Negroni. I've never made a haiku in my entire life. I had to do a lot of soul searching and brain searching to find words to create this, but it was a really fun thing. And haikus are very small, so it's a good way to start, but it also helps you think about how you describe things, in the words you use.
Yeah, and also it's like, for example, one of my biggest help on how I describe and how can I write things is like learning how to describe wine. Because learning how to describe wine, this will help you more with the more vocabulary and how you can connect more words about it.
Mm.
That's what I say is like, learn that vocabulary. Like learn about like how it's like instead sour, you can say mouth watering, just a small different words.
Yep.
Instead, go with that. So, and also something will help me a little bit more is reading the dictionary between English and Spanish and Spanish English. So that's something helped me a lot. So you're like, oh, sometimes like once a week I sit and start reading the dictionary. Oh, I go with letter D, letter F. So it's like, oh, that helped me, especially more with my English, especially because English is my second language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question. If you, let's say you were to pick up a book, if you were to read some poetry, or if you found that an author might be interesting and they might have a book for you to read, would your first inclination be to buy it in Spanish or in English?
I mean, usually all my poems books or my poetry books is mostly in English, Spanish, especially because one of the reasons because I want to feel it more comfortable and I get more the words, absorb the words.
Mm-hmm.
And even the English, it will be the same, but probably I want to get that little extra kick from the book.
Yeah.
And and usually I just get someone gave me this book, the Lost Neruda poems. So I just get it a couple days ago and I'm about to read it. So even I read some of them books, I'm super excited because it's like, oh, I never read this book in Spanish. So that's how I get it. So I'm getting excited. And even that sometimes like most of my poetry books they come in Spanish and English. They have the two versions on the same page. So like, oh, pretty cool.
Do you think there's a different depth of feeling in one language versus the other? Do you think that it properly is conveyed properly in a different one language over the other?
It can be a little bit, but I don't think so because art doesn't have a language.
Yeah.
It's like depends how everyone feel it. But like says like probably I feel more connected in Spanish because it's my first language. But even that, art doesn't have language and doesn't have ethnicity and doesn't have any nationality. Art is part of everyone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All of that. All right. Well, Manny, is there anything else that you'd like to say to everyone? If there's anything to inspire them or to get them to spend more time thinking about this concept of cocktails and poetry, or of each, or individually?
Well, what we can say is like just get inspired for everything. It's like always be open to a new ways of inspiration. Be always open to how you can be open to a new perspective too. Like try to be more open to new ideas. And like I says, like if you have something feeling, if you want to convert that feeling in a cocktail, do it. Write it down the ingredients, how you feeling, and you might, I feel sour, I feel bitter in this moment, I feel this, oh, I feel sweet, I feel, rough, like say that. Just grab those ingredients and get we'll say a flavor wheel, and then probably you can connect that, and that's how you will create a cocktail. I would say it's just be open to that, always like be open to new ideas, and always trust yourself. Always trust yourself, make sure yourself are comfortable. And one of the biggest things is like, don't be afraid of anything. Don't be afraid to make art, because art is art, and it's gonna be one of the most beautiful language that we have.
I love it. Well, thank you, Manny. I appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this class, and then also very, very grateful to have you be doing the class on Thursday as well. That's a really, really amazing thing for you to do and to take your time to do. So please, everyone, follow Manny on Instagram. Mezcalito_Manny. And reach out to him with any ideas you have, any poetry ideas, any books that you're reading. I'm certainly going to do that. Manny, if you wouldn't mind, let's choose a book to read, each of us, and let's come up with a drink. That would be cool.
Yeah, sounds perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Like I said, thank you, means a lot. And hey, we are here to inspire others.
I love that. Thank you for your time. Thanks everyone who joined. Thanks Portland Cocktail Week, Distance Learning, Campari Academy, Campari. Follow us. We've got many more of these sessions coming up in the latter half of this year, which is really cool. We've got a lot of really inspirational folks making these sessions for us. So please tune in. Check us out at Campari Community, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you for your time.